The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Vans. Season 8 of FNRad is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, Anon Optics, The Boardroom Snowboard Shop, FindAnEpicAgent.com, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC.
This real estate secret could save you thousands. Never contact a realtor yourself. Instead, have Find an Epic Agent refer you to proven local realtors. Why? We pay you from the commission the realtor pays Find an Epic Agent for your introduction. You get the best real estate agent working for you, and we put your money back in your pocket. In over 30 countries, Find an Epic Agent makes it cheaper to buy or sell a home. That's why it pays to click FindAnEpicAgent.com before contacting a realtor.
Special thanks to all you listeners who've already subscribed to our YouTube channel. If you haven't, pause the show, go hit subscribe on that button, FNRad Snowboarding on YouTube. Thanks. Support also comes from Dakine, Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and Volcom outerwear. Special thanks this episode to Beneath Base Layer, Lib Tech Snowboards. You can see James Johnson's artwork on Pete Sari's pro model Lib Tech, the Double Dip. And big shout out to Pete and Mervyn for letting us record at the Squim headquarters. And one more special thanks.
This place is awesome.
.com. James Johnson is a Tlingit artist and carver who grew up snowboarding in Alaska. He participated in last year's Natural Selection Tour as a keynote speaker at the Jackson Hole Stop, educating the snowboard event attendees on his culture and the Lineform artwork they're famous for. James has dedicated his life to traditional Tlingit art and to being an important voice of his ancestral history out in the world. This year, James has projects with Vans, Lib Tech, Volcom, Smartwool, and Yeti, among others. I'm riding his Vans boots. They are super sick. I was honored to meet and speak with James Johnson at the Mervyn Factory's Cedar Room out on the Olympic Peninsula.
I've been doing the art form for 14 years now. And it wasn't really until the last 4 or 5 years that things kind of took off.
You're kind of straddling two worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like your art stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the skateboard industry is very, very traditional stuff.
Exactly. The discussion is always, traditional versus contemporary within the Tlingit art form, and kind of like which realm do you lie in. The foundation for the art form goes back thousands of years to my ancestors in Alaska, and that never changes. That's a solid foundation. There's a lot of rules and guidelines that go within the art form in order for it to be proper. For me, I love doing the traditional work, the work that can exist, thousands of years ago, seamlessly within our culture. But then working, in a different realm, in the more contemporary realm, I think as an artist, you could have both feet in each of those realms. And, working with people like Mervyn, doing Lib Tech graphics, working with Volcom, working with Vans, Smartwool, Yeti, all these companies, is great. It's really incredible opportunity, and they're completely on board with putting out something that I'm comfortable with and that honors my heritage and honors my culture. So, it's been incredible.
Let's go back to the beginning. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, born and raised in Juneau, Alaska. Growing up there, it's such a beautiful place. It's the Tlingit people have lived in Southeast Alaska for thousands of years. That's where our culture originated from. That's where the art form originated from. But yeah, growing up in Juneau, small town, 30,000 people, landlocked. There's no roads in or out, and you're right there in the ocean. And then we're fortunate. I grew up snowboarding since I was, fourth grade, going up on the hill and riding. And we have a really incredible home mountain called Eagle Crest. And it's back then you don't realize how special it was till you leave and think back to the days of learning how to ride that mountain. But it's really, really diverse and really challenging, and it shapes really strong snowboarders out of Eagle Crest, you know. So I grew up with, you know, Mark Lambic, he was in the crew, Bubba Weedman, Dave Furman, like we'd go ride every weekend as kids. And yeah, it was really special to grow up there.
Was it a part of like a school program? Was it like rentals?
Yeah,
and lessons
it was. Every
Yeah.
year you'd go up and do like the school week at Eagle Crest.
Sick.
And we had always ditch our instructor like the first day. When you go get to go up and you get like 2 hours like ride on your own. Then you got to meet your instructor at like, you know, 11. And we never met him. And so like, man, we got kicked off the mountain. We had to go back to detention the next day. But yeah, that was part of the program though, you know, like, you go load up the bus and like go up on the hill, you know.
That's crazy awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've known Lando since...
Man, we're little kids, like playing like little league baseball together, like playing little junior football, you know, and like when then you start snowboarding, and he was like, you know, figuring it out. He I don't remember, but he tells people that I was the first person to teach him how to 360, which is
awesome.
kind of cool.
Yeah, that's super sick.
Yeah, but you know, then you saw like how he just started progressing, you know, and getting better and better each year. And so like, you know, we've been following that progression since we were younger. You see, and it was really cool to see like where he's at now, and it's like his career, you know, all the things that he's done. Like everyone there in Juneau is like super proud of Mark. You know?
That's sick.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your first introduction into traditional art?
Man, it was like I didn't get into it until 2008, and backing up before that, I took a carving class like randomly just out of high school, and I was like 19. I took a carving class, and we carved a little bear mask, and it was super small, and it took me 6 months to do it, and I cut my hand a bunch, and like,
oh wow,
it was so difficult. I remember like doing it. But after the class was over, the instructor let us keep the crooked knife we use, and I still use it today. It's like,
same one.
It's like one of my number one tools these days.
Oh wow. Epic.
But yeah, and then I was exposed to it then, but something within me, and I just said, it was like a calling almost, saying like, this is what you need to do. You need to pursue this art form. And I started, you know, dedicating my life to it, and learning the fundamentals of the art form, and learning the stories. And, you know, the art form is not something you just dabble in. You know, if you want to be really good at it, you have to dedicate your whole being to it. And, yeah, it's been, you know, most people are sitting there searching for like their purpose in life. Like, what am I meant to do? You know, and this, whether I chose to do it or it chose me, like, this is exactly what I'm meant to do. And it's going to be a lifelong learning. You know, I'm going to spend the rest of my life carving, you know.
What was the difference, you think, from the carving class that you took? Was that just that kind of, you know, momentum of graduating high school and being like, okay, I got to grow up, I got to try to get a job or something like that?
My dad was pretty artistic. He had a good form of balance with his drawing, and it wasn't Tlingit art or anything, but then I always had this kind of artistic side where I saw composition and balance from like an early age. And yeah, it was I don't know, like a calling to do it, but things really shifted in 2012. I'd only been carving for 4 years and learning the art form. And there's a big show in my hometown called Alaska. It's a celebration juried art show. And it features the best Tlingit, Haida, Tsimshian artists for a celebration. And the lead juror who was selecting the work was Nathan Jackson. Nathan's like one of the all-time greatest Tlingit artists living. Incredible work that Nathan does. And he selected my work to be chosen for it, and it was such an honor, you know, and I was so nervous, you know. I had no idea like the work I was doing. And, you know, Nathan, I asked him, I was in Arizona, and I asked him, hey, can you critique my work and like help me out? And he basically said, look, like, you're good. I see it. That's why I chose this. But the work you're doing right now is garbage.
Oh, wow.
And he said, like, but then he said, this is what you need to work on. And the foundation for the art form is called form line. Like, form lines, like all the images you see visually, like the painted lines you see on clan houses and designs is called form line. And Nathan said, focus on drawing, focus on your form line, because the better you are at drawing, the better carver you're going to be, because it's going to teach you this balance and composition. And so from then, you know, I spent years and years and years studying and practicing and drawing, and then things, you know, started to click, you know, like 7 years later. You know, that's how long it took to get to kind of where I'm on this like trajectory that I'm on right now, you know. But the artists I look up to, man, they're all in their 70s and 80s, you know, and been pushing it forever. And, you know, they're all going to pass too with unfinished work sitting on the table. And so, like, for me, like, that's exactly the path that I'm on. That's what I've dedicated my life to doing.
A whole life of art. Yeah.
Yeah. But the crazy thing too, there's no word for art in our language, you know? So like the pieces you do are so much bigger than just trying to create something that's beautiful. You know, the history of our people was an oral history that's passed down from generation to generation. And the art form was seamlessly integrated as part of that story and that history of our people. And the story could be told through anything. Be told through a kutia, a totem pole, a clan house, a bentwood box, a mask, a paddle, a rattle. All these things could tell that story of our people, of this is who we are and this is where we came from. And so like that, you know, you start thinking about that when you do your work, you know, and being aware of the work you're doing, and you start connecting things. And everything becomes way more meaningful when you work on a piece. It's so much more than trying to just carve it a certain way. You're carving it, you're thinking of, you know, it's going to be worn. You know, traditionally that mask would not be put on the wall. It'd be danced in and worn and used. You know, everything in our culture is functional. You know, it served a purpose. But as, you know, again, like the skill that our ancestors created, that's something that we're all striving for today. Like every Northwest Coast artist will tell you, like, they set the standard for what we're doing today, and we're not there yet. You know, these days we have every tool imaginable to create the work, but the reason why their art is so much better than ours is because they had this tremendous knowledge that we don't have, and we're just trying to get that back, and that's going to take lifetimes.
Yeah. How are the stories shared amongst your people? Like how do you get the stories for the pieces that you're doing? I'm
Dakl'aweidi, which is Killerwhale clan. My family lineage is Dakl'aweidi from Xutsnoowú Kwáan, Angoon, Alaska. My family lineage, my grandfathers were all Dakl'aweidi chiefs. My great-great-grandfather was Chief Gusht'eiheen of Xutsnoowú, and like his name means spray off the dorsal fin of Killerwhale.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I have tattooed on my hand my clan crest of Killerwhale. And those stories are passed down traditionally, like within the clan origin stories. And our culture is matrilineal. You follow your mother's clan. And when you marry the opposite. You know, the two top clans in our culture are Eagle and Raven. And that preserves the balance. Like my mother is Eagle, so I'm Eagle. My wife is Raven, and my son is Raven. But all these things, like our culture and everything, is always about balance. Professor Stephen Langan of University of Alaska Anchorage has been studying Tlingit culture for like 40 years. And he coined the term obligatory reciprocity when talking about our culture. That means it's a necessary balance that must be kept within all things. The structure of our clans, our interaction with people, our interaction in the world around us and the environment, and also the art form has to maintain this balance.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep.
Laid that on you.
Stuff. No, I love this. This is, I just, I'm so honored that you're sharing this with me because, for a lot of people, your exposure to original nations art, or even just your basic knowledge of original nations, most people don't know there were hundreds of nations on just this landmass that we're on now.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like people think, I think the majority of people would think maybe 5 to 10 different groups, but we're talking hundreds and hundreds of groups.
Yeah. The culture was thriving in Northwest Coast. For me, I'm Tlingit. Tlingit is the northernmost tribe of Northwest Coast people. We inhabited up to Yakutat, then south to Ketchikan, and inland Tlingit and Yukon. And then below us, you have Haida, Tsimshian. Then it gets into BC where there's, a ton of different tribes, all with their own language, all with their own culture, their own beliefs, their own origin stories. Everything changes. And so like this rich culture existed for thousands of years along the coast. It was really rich, and it's a pretty touchy thing that you start talking about colonization and like what happened to our people. But to put it in perspective, we just went through or kind of going through this pandemic, right? This virus is spreading and people are dying. But smallpox, in the mid 1800s, wiped out 3/4 of the Northwest Coast population. This virus that there's no cure for the indigenous people, and they're dying. And so you look at this knowledge, what I talked about earlier, that was passed down generation to generation, was severed right there. People, for example, in the art form that had, all this knowledge and stories and knew everything about the art form that had been passed down to them, and they're ready to pass on to the next. They couldn't. They died. And so like that was a turning point for Northwest Coast people. These things, the art form was pushed to the brink of extinction, and there's a point in time too where you couldn't even speak your language, you couldn't even practice the art form, and the pieces were taken out of Alaska, taken out of the Northwest Coast, just blatantly taken. It wasn't until this last year that we've known about the horror stories about residential schools and how that affected, the youth. And it was cultural assimilation and genocide that occurred with all these indigenous youth. And we've known about that for a long time. Our elders have spoken about it. And it's good that it got pushed into the spotlight and people started wanting to know the truth of what really happened, Because you see something, you see the art form, you see the people, and everything is so much bigger than that. You're carrying along these generations on your back. The more I got into the art form, I realized the responsibility I had. It's so much more than just trying to carve something that's pretty. You're carrying on this culture and this tradition, but I welcome that weight on my shoulders. I want it, it's a gift to be able to create these images and carry our culture forward. It's a gift my ancestors placed in my hands and said, here, take it. It's your turn. Carry this through your lifetime. Then when I'm done, I pass it on. That's what's going to bring it forward again. Yeah.
We got our family a family pass to the Museum of Anthropology in Vancouver at UBC, the university. And, I'd been there before a couple of times, but I felt a calling to go a little bit deeper with it. Like, there's so much there to look at.
So much.
It's unbelievable, the number of pieces. Just drawers after
drawers. Endless drawers, yeah.
And that was where I realized that the story I was given in non-residential school, just in Canadian public school, was a bullshit story.
Yeah.
It was obvious that there was craftsmen, that there were hyper-intelligent people. Like, before, this generation where we've got electronics and all sorts of things, and doctors and lawyers are the kind of, top of society as far as, people looking at the professionals who are, the scientists or whatever. You can see in these objects, that there were craftsmen that didn't just whittle a little thing while they were sitting at the side of a river waiting for a fish to go in a net or something. Like, this was an obvious traditional form of carving in all sorts of different mediums that had to be passed from one master to a student.
Oh yeah.
It was so obvious when I saw that. And then maybe a few weeks after that, I realized, oh shit, all this shit is stolen. Like, everything in here. Like, everything in here was taken without permission.
Yeah.
The whole collection.
Yeah.
Because even where it says, like, given with permission by, Larry and Bonnie Smith or whatever.
Yep.
Well, where the fuck did they get it from? 'Cause
Yeah.
That's just some white people that had some gold stuff.
It's heartbreaking. It's when they banned, you weren't allowed to do the art form. You weren't allowed to, this is the turn of the, early 1900s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Expeditions went to Alaska to collect the last of the art form. And that meant by getting it by any means necessary. And it wasn't just a couple items. There was thousands of pieces left, When I got into it, I asked my dad, I said, is there anything left of our grandfathers? Anything at all? And there's nothing. Nothing left.
Not one piece.
No. The beautiful Nahin, the Ch'áak blankets, his chief blanket. Chiefs would usually wear the beautiful Ch'áak blankets. And someone in the family sold it for, it's priceless,
Right.
And but that is like a testament too to Northwest Coast art, you see it in these museum displays and the discussions, you have these artifacts that are cultural significance to our people. Does it belong in a museum or does it belong back with the tribe? What right do they have to have these objects? But lucky for us in the United States, you have repatriation, where a lot of museums have given back a lot of the objects back to the tribe. Good. Which has been great. I work with a museum in Denver, the Museum of Nature and Science in Denver, and the head curator is Chip Colwell. And Chip wrote a whole book on repatriation, and he's given back over 2,000 pieces from their collection back to the people, which is awesome. But, for me, I know all these horrible things have happened to our people, right? You acknowledge it. It's terrible. You carry that with you. Part of you carries that with you on your back everywhere you go. But for me, I think for us as a people, we need to pick up these broken pieces that we have left, and let's put this thing back together the best way we know how and move forward again. That's why it's important for me to carve, as much as I can, to carve these traditional pieces, carve these these clan hats, and carve these bowls, and carve these masks, and carve these things that our people had, My dad told me too, before he died, he said, you know what, because he saw how much effort you put into a piece. It's hard. The art form is hard. No way around it. You look at it, it's hard. And you put everything you have into it. Blood, sweat, tears, everything into creating a work. And he saw how easy it is to get attached to that work. But he told me, he said, don't get attached to your work. He said, focus on your skill. He said, your skill is always going to improve. When you finish a piece, he said, you let go of it. You let a balloon go in the sky. It goes where it needs to go. Whether it goes to a museum or a collector, or I give it to my son too to keep in our family, for him after I'm gone. But he said, that it goes back to their traditional ways, the totem pole carvers. The second that they had finished carving a totem pole, the carvers could no longer touch it anymore. It didn't belong to them. It belonged to the people.
Wow. I've been reading a few books on traditional, they're calling it traditional environmental knowledge. So this is when original nations professors come in and study, because they're trying to take it out. I don't know why they're taking the like traditional indigenous knowledge, or like they've created that moniker, I guess, to be neutral. I'm not sure, but I've been reading books on it, and in every direction is unlimited knowledge.
Yeah.
Like it would take a lifetime to learn about mosses. It would take a lifetime to learn about, pick a plant, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you saying is just reinforcing, it took generations, took tens of thousands of years to gather the knowledge that was broken 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Not that long ago.
Some of it's gone. And even the methods for getting it back.
Yeah. It's a balance. Like these days you see with the environment, you see how much we're taking. We're just taking and taking and taking and taking until what's left, right? But like our beliefs, is this balance that you have. And it's a respect. Humans, animals, the earth, all exist on the same plane in our beliefs. And you give respect to everything because everything has spirit. Everything is alive. And these days, you see how out of balance everyone is. Out of balance with each other, out of balance with the environment. This capitalism, take as much as I can right now thing. And so looking back at the old ways, is the way forward, and living in this balance and recalibrating. I think being in the outdoor industry too, it's pretty, everyone's really passionate about the mountains and the environment. And so like everyone has a real passion for like, how can we fix this thing? How could we be better? And that indigenous knowledge is right there.
I think you touched on probably the most important thing, like to really embody what it means to look at rice as a person, right? And we're seeing laws being made around the world where rivers are being acknowledged as having the rights of a personhood, because that's the kind of language that we've pigeonholed the entire world into, because we've got this kind of like law system. It's interesting because most of the trouble with the communication is going to come from language, I think. That's where we're going to really need to develop better sharing skills in language, because we've used the word laws for 100 years over here to mean rules, right? Laws are something that you can't break. You know what I mean? Like gravity. It doesn't work any other way. Or reciprocation, like what you're talking about. Like if you hurt someone, it's on a long enough timeline, you're going to get that hurt back. And if you help someone, those are laws.
Yeah.
Rules are like, don't smoke marijuana, right? That can change. And we've seen it change in our lifetime. It was like, go to jail for the rest of your life when we were kids. And now it's like, take this, it's going to help you. Exactly. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to internalize on that is definitely the personhood of all things. I heard someone say yesterday, rocks, and I was like, rocks, that's a hard one for me to wrap my head around. And then she said, but I look at them and they're all different, just like people. Every rock is different. And I was like, okay, that's a step there. It does take effort because, the education system I don't even want to say it's brainwashing or whatever. It was an attempt that people were making to do good in the world, right? On some level, there was intentions there to do good. Some really major things got missed in the accounting nature. Everything that's not, okay. I'm going to try and explain this. If I go too long here, I'll just cut myself off. I don't know when, but a couple of 100 years ago, people around the world were like, slavery sucks. That sucks. We don't want to do that. Every human has the right to be free, right? And that's two things in one. The rights thing is where everything goes kind of crazy and haywire. Because once you start telling people they have rights, then other people don't have rights, so now all people have rights. But if you just expand your personhood from human beings to every other life form, we're not even close to that yet. Like cows have rights, chickens have rights, rice has rights, rocks have rights. Once we're there, we're going to be in a very different place than we are right now. And there's probably people listening to this that are like, that's ridiculous. But that's the only way out, really.
Yeah.
Is to recognize. Now, you can end the rights thing. That's what we need to do, is we need to look to traditional environmental knowledge.
Yeah. No, there's a consciousness shift where people are... they're looking for the truth, and like they're looking for some things that are real and things that are kind of like they want to like see the world through what's really happening. And I think this with the environment and things like that, like it's not going to happen overnight, but you put the idea out there to people. Mm-hmm. And the idea just grows, and like it passes on to other people, and it's a slow progress, Mm-hmm. But like I believe like you put good energy out there and you're a good person, like you attract good things to you. And I've found that true for what I'm doing. And I think you lead by example, and like those things have a effect. They have effect, it passes on to the next person, but I don't know. I'm, I guess, optimistic.
I am too. Yeah. Because if I'm like, I grew up totally as white as a person could be. And I knew there was something missing. And it doesn't take much. You can Google it now. You could just read a few really good books and you go, oh my God. Anytime someone says the rights of anything, they're actually talking about something that's not natural. That's about power. That's about dividing up your access to things. Mm-hmm. If you flip the script and go to the original nation's knowledge, everybody knows its responsibilities. Mm-hmm. So humans are the last to the game, and the rest of nature has been here forever. We're guests in a beautiful world. Yeah. And we're acting as though we own the place. Yeah. So come in with responsibilities like you would at somebody's house that you really want to impress. Yeah. Keep tidying up after yourself, and don't make messes places, and don't take things that aren't yours. Yeah.
Well, like the earth is going to be in balance no matter what. And like the effect that we have on it is going to balance itself out, and that's what it's doing. But yeah, like you said, it's a respect thing, and respect starts with yourself too, and then move on to other things. But again, like it's a consciousness shift that I think is going to take place, or needs to take place. And I think it's happening. It's just not quick.
It sounds like your dad imparted on you a lot of really good knowledge. And I mean, it sounds also like he had a lot of reasons to be quite bitter and upset and maybe go down a really dark path.
Yeah, no. I took care of both my parents before they passed away. My mom asked for help, and I took care of her. I moved her from Alaska to my home in Arizona, stayed with my dad, and took care of him, And it wasn't easy, put the stress of, on my wife. But, another thing too, like they got to have a really good relationship with my son, and that is invaluable. But yeah, my dad, he grew up he had to go to residential school, and so the culture was stripped to him. And so the second I said I want to pursue this, he was my number one supporter. He said, absolutely, let's do it, because he saw it was taken from him, it was taken from his dad, my grandfather. And so like I carry that with me too. I carry all those things that happened, and push forward. But I'm thankful for him, thankful for the time we spent together, and thankful for him to show me this is the path, this is where you go.
Yeah, that's really epic that he didn't lose that path.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, that was I don't know about in the States, but definitely in Canada, what I've read, it was, I mean, publicly, you can read it. If you just Google it, like, they were trying to eradicate native culture from Canada. They were trying to assimilate people, and if they were resistant, they would kill them. Yep,
exactly. I mean, our people lived in this balance. They lived off the land. They sustained this way of life for generations. Salmon, principal food source for a lot of nations along the coast. And during colonization, you had canneries and fisheries come in, and people will just stake claim on, the clan would own a certain part of the fishing grounds. And they'd say, this is where we get our food source. That'd feed everybody. There's no I in this clan. The food is for everybody. The art is for everybody. And as soon as people started coming in saying, no, that's not yours anymore, this is mine, it all is all coming to an end.
Devastation, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful to hear about how shitty it was, colonization. It's very uplifting to hear, stories from you and from other people that are celebrated now, right? Like that's the next move.
Yeah,
is that people that are doing good things and bringing back the traditional art. That in itself, and it's crazy that you said that there was no word for art, because that shifted my thinking in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's akin to having a book to read that is in a language that you can learn, that will connect you with people that have been on this land for tens of thousands of years.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was it's so much bigger. You look at a piece in a museum, like you go in there and you see a bentwood bowl, or a bentwood box, and it's heavily patinaed, and it's hundreds of years old. But that piece was completely integrated in our culture. That box, the ones that are carved and painted, those are typically owned by high-ranking chiefs of a clan. And we'd store our sacred ceremonial items in those bentwood boxes. The foundation for our culture is our Ch'áak, which is our potlatch. That was when that's like the central nucleus for our culture. A Ch'áak. Ch'áak means to give. And so you'd host a Ch'áak, and, the art form is on its true stage. You'd see the true intention of the art form on display. The masks were worn, the beautiful bowls were used to serve food to everyone that came there. And the bentwood boxes would hold our sacred ceremonial objects. It's called our thru, whether it be a clan hat, or they'd bring it out and wear it just for that occasion. Then colonization, the first thing they did was ban the Ch'áak.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to do that anymore. You weren't allowed to sing songs. You weren't allowed to celebrate your culture, and a lot of the thru, those pieces were just taken.
Huh.
Pieces that had been within the clan for generations, scattered all over the world. And so, that's another reason, another piece of, why I do what I do. I want to bring it back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from what I understand, the potlatch, I mean, philosophically speaking, it just makes so much sense. It's the opposite of consumerism. It's putting the highest rank and highest form of admiration in the community on the person that gives the most. It's the absolute opposite of what we've got.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a yacht, you would give it to someone.
Yeah, you give away a lot of, everyone that would show up would receive a gift. Everyone would be fed, And it would take years to plan a coup week. You had to make sure you had enough food to provide for that occasion. So, yeah, it was no big thing. You see a clan hat and you see the rings on top of it, right? Stacked up.
Mm-hmm.
Each ring represents a coup week that chief held.
Wow.
That's what that represents. So you see some museums, you see them stacked up really high. That means he's hosted a lot of potlatches for his people.
That's super sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so glad that there are people that are still practicing this, that the knowledge wasn't completely severed, right?
Yeah, right now language is a real crisis within all indigenous cultures. A lot of the elders are dying without passing on the knowledge that they have, speaking fluently in your native language. I work with Sea Alaska Heritage Institute back in my hometown, Juneau, Alaska, and they've done a really amazing job at preserving the Tlingit language and making it accessible for the younger generations to learn it, and that's another piece of the puzzle that we're trying to build up again.
I mean, there was a great sadness for generations, and that was intentionally put there, obviously. But do you see kids of this upcoming generation excited to learn their language, excited to learn the stories?
Yeah. What's great is we're sitting here at Mervyn Manufacturing, Lib Tech, and I've worked with them I'm on my 5th graphic working with Pete with Lib, and it's been an incredible ride. But Pete donated a portion of the last 4 boards that we've done back to Sea Alaska Heritage for the construction of a new arts campus that just opened in June. And with that campus, they're teaching not only Tlingit art, Tlingit Haida, Tsimshian art, but also they're doing language programs for a lot of the youth. So that was really awesome. Like, man, such an honorable thing, and really happy that I could work with someone like Lib Tech that gives back like that.
Were they the first in the snowboard industry that you worked with, art-wise?
No, I've been fortunate to work with a lot of different companies in the last 4 years. Being an artist for Lib Tech is like a dream come true, like growing up lifelong snowboarder. And everything almost happened really organically with everybody. I never approached anyone and say, hey, let's, hounding them. They would say, hey, like, we like your work. What do you think about this? And working with Lib Tech, Volcom's been supporting me too for the last 4 or 5 years, which has been awesome.
Rad.
Such a cool company, like such an artist-driven company. You go to the headquarters and it's like, wall-to-wall art everywhere, and it's amazing. I also work with Lando with Ingrained Ink, which is awesome. Just artist collaboration. That's been great. Smartwool, I just signed with them last year. Alex Pashley at Smartwool has been awesome. They donated also to Sea Alaska Heritage, really generous. Donated to some youth programs up there, and then anytime I'm traveling and doing something at a school, like they'll send out product to hand out to all the kids, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Vans, really excited. I'm working with them with Matt Patty. They supported me for the last 5 years now, and we actually developed a whole collection that's coming out in September. And Vans, we took a portion from that collection and we donated it to Sea Alaska to kind of kick off a snow program for Native youth up there, where we're going to get Native youth on the hill back in my hometown, Gilchrist.
Dude.
So this will be like the first year that that program's coming together, but it's all those companies giving back and supporting my clan and my people is such an honor.
And was that something that you came into the relationships with that in mind, or is it something
pretty
that
organically?
Oh, sick.
It's like they see like how passionate I am about the art form and how it goes back to the people, and if I get in a position where I could help the Native youth, I'm going to do it, and so when these opportunities presented themselves, I said, hey, like, what do you think about doing this? And they said, yeah, absolutely. And the Native youth need that encouragement. They need that help, and they need that support. They need to understand, like, you could go after what you really want to do with your life and obtain these things. This stuff is possible.
What would you say to listeners that feel like they're already there? I mean, as a white person, I am exposed to other white people that are like, what are they whining about?
Yeah, I mean, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and like I drive through the reservation up in the northern part of the state, man, and it is desolate. It is poor, and those kids don't have hope. They don't have hope to get out and go after it, where there's follow just their passion of what they want to do. And so, like, I've done a lot of talks. I've been a speaker for a lot of different youth programs for Native youth, and like we're trying to figure out how to get these kids hope, and give them encouragement. And it's it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of work to do it, but that's also something that I've dedicated, what I do to giving back.
Traditionally that's what has to happen, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't, I could see it from the moment I walked in here. Your art's not about like gaining some form. I asked you, are you a master artist? You're like, I don't really, that's not something I'm
not on my name tag. Yeah.
Right. And so there's not a lot of ego in what you're doing. But there's a lot of joy I can see in the successes that you're having that are humongous. You want to talk about the Google thing?
Yeah. Well, like, kind of going back to what my dad told me, like, just focus on your skill, and like, that's always going to improve. That's always going to expand and get better. And that's lifelong. You're going to do that. Don't focus on the outcome, focus on improving. And, this last, was in May, again, like, I get these emails, and it's like, I think it's spam, because it's like, email from Google saying, hey, like, we want to hire you to do designs for our homepage,
Wow.
And that I just finished that commission, did 4 designs. It's going to be for Native American Heritage Month in November, and so they'll be on the Google homepage. You can see form line design and also a story about what you're looking at. And what an incredible platform. They said in the contract, like, it's going to be seen by 1 billion people, and like, they weren't joking,
Wow.
But like, you expose that, the Tlingit art form on that platform is incredible.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing, this, like, because when you first say Google, I'm like, aren't those guys... They used to say, do no evil, or whatever that was their, and they've changed their motto from do no evil. So you're kind of like, I'm looking at it going, well, aren't they like a little world dominating kind of colonistic in the, but then when you say their platform is going to put your art in front of 1 billion people, and that you're the one doing the art, so it's going to have the integrity of James Johnson, all of a sudden it's giving me goosebumps. I'm like, wow, that's probably the biggest platform for First Nations art ever. Right? It's got,
I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but it's, I just take it in stride with all those things that happen, and, be professional with what you're doing, and do good work,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've got the integrity in life. You just, I just see it in your eyes. I see it in your work. It's really, really inspiring. And I think I've had a lot of conversations with pro snowboarders who've gone on to be parents, And to a person, everybody wants their kid to find something that they're passionate about that mirrors how passionate we were about snowboarding, say, for example. And it's apparent that you've found it in creating storytelling through traditional art.
Yeah, no, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that this chose me. You know, it's like, you know, it's, you know, I'm lucky to do this every day, lucky to dedicate my life to something. I couldn't imagine doing anything else than this, than what I'm doing.
I think it's important to put it out there too that you tried when you were younger and it just didn't click.
It didn't click for a lot of years, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, even when you went back to it, it was.
Yeah, no, this is a hard thing to do. It's supposed to be hard. I'm teaching right now at the Port Townsend School of Woodworking. I just finished my first course, Tlingit paddle carving class.
Rad.
You know, passing on like what I know on to others. And a cool thing too with them, they hold 2 spots per class for indigenous carvers, where they put them on full scholarship. They
Rad.
just show up and I'll teach them, you know.
Epic.
I had 12 students teaching them how to carve, and a lot of them, you know, I'd never touched a crooked knife before or adze, you know, and you go through the whole process. But like passing on that knowledge on to others is such a great thing. You know, you see like their eyes light up, you know, when they create this piece that they didn't think they could do, you know, at the start of the week. And then by the end of the week, they have this thing that they're proud of. But yeah, working with the Port Townsend School has been really incredible. It's like it's a whole different avenue for the art form of teaching.
Yeah, when you're forced to put together a program, it really gets you dissecting what you're doing.
Yeah, I put myself in their shoes and like what they're looking at, like try to visualize like what they're thinking looking at this piece of wood, what they're thinking looking at this line they have to cut, you know. And yeah, it's funny. I told the other instructor, I was like, this is kind of relaxing right now to do this, like to be here. I was like, I've been like grinding for 2 months, painting, you know, meeting deadlines. And so I was like looking forward to this. She's like, really? Like most people are like stressed about coming here to teach, you know, but the environment is so cool in there. You know, we get everyone kind of in a circle and we start working and creating wood chips. And like another student said, you know, that's pretty wild that we could go, you know, a couple hours and no one said a single word, but everyone's worked that whole time. You know, I said, yeah, it's a mindless activity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look down, look up, and it's been 2 hours, but it puts you directly in that moment where you're not stressed or you're not worried, you know, work with what's right in front of you.
Yeah, that's snowboarding for me to a T.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to think about the future or the past.
Yeah.
You're right where you are.
Yeah.
And that time loss, I think they call it a state of flow, right? Like when you have done something for 2 hours and then you look up. I was carving a little bit and I realized, oh, my entire arm is going to be sore for like 4 days now because I've never done that motion.
Yeah.
And I just spent 4 hours doing it or whatever, but you lose the time. Can we talk a bit about cedar? Because I read a book on cedar at Clarence's recommendation, and I was just blown away by the deep connection to the West Coast and both red and yellow cedar.
Yeah, that's our traditional wood is red and yellow cedar. Mm-hmm. You have a spiritual connection to those wood. Like we use it for everything. You know, we use it from our clan houses to our totem poles to our canoes, paddles, everything was
clothing,
cedar.
Yeah,
the strip of cedar bark and use it for weaving, for hats, for baskets, all these objects that are completely integrated within our culture. You know, the women would strip cedar bark off a living tree, you know, and use it, and you know. That was a spiritual thing, you know, you're taking this from a living thing and using it, and powerful, you know, really powerful. And yeah, that's our 2 traditional carving woods that we use for everything.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's so awesome. I remember a few years ago, I heard in Western science, they'd figured out that the red in cedar is from the salmon dying on the banks. And then the mycelium bring that to the cedar trees. And I think, wow, that's crazy awesome.
Yeah, well, they would trade for, like, trading was a big thing amongst Northwest Coast people. And the Haida had the big cedar trees that our people would trade for. And that's what they would use for the canoes. That's what they used for the houses, the totem poles, all kinds of objects. But yeah, it's the smell too. Like, even teaching over there, like, everyone that walks into the carving workshop is like, man, it smells so good in here.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best. A fresh red cedar, bag of dust. Even I'll bring it home, put it in the sock drawer or whatever. It's amazing. Yeah. There's something very special about red cedar, and then carving yellow cedar. I had no idea before.
Yeah.
To me, like, wood is wood. Everything's made of pine,
Sure.
And pine is stained like other woods. But when you really get your hands on a chunk of yellow cedar, so like a couple of seasons ago, I went with Clarence up to Mount Seymour. My friend's got a cabin there, and we found a fallen tree, and he cut up about an 8-foot chunk of it for me into planks. Turned that into a core and built a snowboard out of it. And the snap, it's lighter. When it came out of the press, Rob Dow was like, it's too light. He waited. He's like, this thing's going to snap. But no, man, it is so lively
cool.
and so amazing. But just the scraps of that wood, whenever I carve them down and then sand them, I'm like, this is like, it's not like wood. It's like butter or something.
Yeah, we're working with at the school. We're working with yellow cedar right now. We did the paddle class in yellow, and then the panel class is going to be in yellow cedar too.
Rad, yeah.
So yes, the density of yellow is really nice for carving. It's it cuts cross grain really well, holds cuts. A little bit more effort to carve it, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. And again, the smell. It's a different smell altogether.
Yeah.
But it's, so distinct.
Yeah.
Amazing, dude. This is amazing. I'm trying to think of other things we talked about before off mic that, like, do you stay in touch with Lando? Do you still shred?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I talked to Mark quite a bit. Yeah, this year was cool because Travis asked me to be a guest speaker at Natural Selection.
Right.
And like, that was awesome. Like, when Travis hits you up to do something, it's like, no matter what it is, you got to do it, Nice. And like, he's like, hey, I'd like to have you come out and talk about the Tlingit art form and culture. It was on Yeti night out there, and like, big auditorium in Jackson. Which is kind of nerve-wracking, but like, you do it, But it was cool. Lando was out there, and he picked me up from the airport, and like, got to hang with him, and we got to go ride too. Go up there, and he gave me a full tour of the whole mountain in Jackson, which is cool.
It's a beautiful mountain.
Yeah.
So steep, hey?
Yeah, we checked out the whole thing. It was awesome. And then coming up here, riding Baker with Mark too is pretty cool. Like, he knows that mountain, like, his home mountain. So like, going out on the arm and like getting a little tour guide is cool.
Too nice. Let's talk a bit about the art collective that he put together. Was that the first collective that you were a part of?
Yeah, that was that was like 2016 or so. Like, I kept in contact with Mark. We'd trade like masks for snowboards.
Wow.
Like, throughout the years.
Right.
He's like, I'd finish a mask, he'd like it, and say, hey, I'll send you a kit, and he'd collect it. He has a lot of pretty incredible artwork in his house. But randomly, I got a phone call from him, and it was like a Wednesday afternoon, and he was like, hey, like, I'm having some artists out to my house this weekend, and I'd like to bring you up and do your thing, basically. And I said, yeah, sure. By Friday morning, I was on a flight,
Wow.
I hadn't seen him for a long time, and like, pull up to the airport, and like, Jamie Lynn picks me up, it was surreal. then we started instantly talking about, he's such a fan of Northwest Coast art, and I was like, this connection to Raven, and like, really cool. And I spent the weekend there and did art, watched Jamie like do his thing, and I got to carve and paint and stuff, and that kind of kicked it off. And he said, look, I'm starting this company called Ingrained Ink, and I want you to be an artist. And he and I, we've collaborated on some stuff and run the company together, and it's just him and I basically doing it. But we've done some cool shirts with Volcom, and like it's just cool. It's fun, It's cool. We put our hand sticker on the boards, and it's like big, bold, easy recognizable.
Yeah, that's sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then did Travis invite you into the what's the art collective that?
Yeah, it was the time when they were filming for Fourth Phase.
Yeah. And
that's when I started doing really going after pieces, and things started to click. My form line started to improve, carving started getting better. And Mark would show Travis my work when they were filming for that project. And Travis had an art gallery or art collective called A Symbol in Jackson.
Yeah.
With like Scopes on there, like Jamie, Mike Perillo, all these like heavy hitters, incredible artists were part of it. And Travis was like, I'd like to have you be a part of A Symbol too.
Wow.
And did a show out there in Jackson in 2017. We did a show there, and that was actually the last show before we decided to close A Symbol. But that was such a cool thing, like going out there, and that was the first like real show for me. That was like, blank room, and you fill that thing with all your work.
Rad.
And it was fun. It was really cool to be out there and like experience that. And yeah, that was, knowing Travis too, like that guy is such an icon, and like he seems to find the way to bring out the best in you, and do things like you didn't really think you could do. He'll kind of nudge you along and say like, you can do this.
Wow.
Like, here we go.
Sick.
You step out of your comfort zone for sure.
Yeah.
Him.
Do you have an art piece that you're attached to that you're not supposed to be, like your dad said, let it go? You have something that just it took your whole heart, and you
shoot, that's a tough one. I carved a Tlingit Ch'áak. It's Killerwhale clan hat I carved, honoring my grandfathers. And the Smithsonian had one of them for like 100 years, and got repatriated back. And I saw it, and I said, I want to carve a Killerwhale clan hat to honor my grandfathers. So I carved it, and as I was carving it, it's like you start. There's like a real magic to it. It gets to a certain point where the eyes of the mask start looking at you, or like the shape just starts coming alive, and it gives you like chills when you're doing it. It's starting to get to this level that has this supernatural magic to it. And that piece had it for sure when I was carving it, and it turned out really good. And it's been in a lot of shows. It's every year it's in a different place. It was in South Dakota last year. Now it's up in Alaska this year. It was in Denver before that, but it's kind of going around everywhere. But something like that, that's my son's piece. Like he's gonna keep that. Like after I'm gone, he'll have that within our family for his collection.
Yeah, it makes me realize how naive my questions are. Yeah, of course, that's the integration of what this is,
mm-hmm.
right? And that authenticity behind carving it with all those intentions. Of course, it's going to be all over the world.
Yeah,
of course it
surreal.
Is. Yeah, that's so sick.
Yeah, I'm lucky to work with a lot of different museums all over the country, and collectors and whatnot. But like Deb Haaland, she's the new U.S. Department of Interior Secretary. She has 2 of my works in her office in D.C., which is really special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wild.
It's cool, man. It's like there's something about your work. Like I said, when I saw it, I was just like, holy smokes, this is probably the nicest stuff I've ever seen. And like I said, I've been to museums and I've with intention to go see stuff. I think I was looking in the cedar book at bentwood boxes, and I was seeing, a lot of things when you see how the sausage is made or you see the trick behind the magician's trick, you go, oh, okay, I see. You just have to work really hard and you could figure out the sleight of hand or whatever. There's no sleight of hand in bentwood boxes.
Yeah.
It is like the most challenging woodworking that you could do.
Yeah, I mean, you look at indigenous artists, like they were highly skilled in the old days, highly skilled in a lot of mediums, a lot of things you were able to work with, whether it be cedar, whether it be bone, shell, antler, all these things you're able to carve. Right now I have a real fascination with horn spoons out of a Dall sheep horn. Our people would carve big spoons out of it. And every time I get to, once you become relatively, I guess, known or good as a Tlingit artist, you could go into museum collections and like get gloves on and go dive into the collection and study things that are behind closed doors in the vault. You know what I mean? And go down. I work with the Burke Museum here in Seattle pretty steady. I just got a research grant through them. I'll be back here in a month to study pieces in there, specifically bowls and spoons. But you look at these spoons and they're carved so thin and detailed, you can hold up to light and see through it, And I've done 2 spoons so far, and that's something that I'm gonna pursue and dive into. But yeah, the elegance, the skill level for all Northwest Coast artists is incredible. It's even teaching at Port Townsend, every one of the students was like, I was such a renewed respect and for what you guys do. They're like, this is hard. I was like, it's supposed to be hard, Yeah.
Yeah. I think I spent my whole life looking at Native art through such, just uninformed eyes, looking at it oh, it's kind of simple. And then, but if you take 10 seconds and stop on one piece and then looking at, or try, that's the best thing to do, is try and replicate it.
Yeah.
And what you make is such a piece of shit. You go, wait a minute, that would have taken a million
it's
tries.
Funny, Scof is an artist I look up to quite a bit. He's a Lib Tech artist. He's good friends with Jamie, and he hit me up. We talk online, just checking in and stuff. But he told me he was up here with Jamie in the Pacific Northwest, and I just finished a piece, and Jamie was showing Scof, and they're looking at it, and Jamie was like, try to draw that right now. And Scof was like, it was the hardest thing to try to draw that,
Yeah.
But it's such he's so good. I love.
Oh yeah, his art's amazing. But yes,
his lines are crazy. So good.
Yeah.
But the art form of learning form line takes just years and years of understanding and developing balance and composition, and within those fundamentals you start developing your style, and that's yours alone. That's kind of your style within the art form. And it's like signing a piece without putting your name on it. It's yours, and people could recognize it and say, I know who did that. A lot of the artists I look up to, I don't even have to see it. I know exactly it's who did it. That's
Right.
just their signature.
Right. Yeah, Clarence was trying to pass that on to me. Just he liked Eden Shaw, and then I saw something somewhere one day, and I was like, it's Clarence's, and I noticed it was the eyes, and he said, yeah, everybody's got their own eyes.
Yeah.
And then he showed me, they're his eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
blown.
these signature little curves, whether it be the way they shape an eye or the way a line curves. A lot of people develop their own style within the art form, within the rules and guidelines that you have to follow.
Yeah, I guess he was sharing the rules with me, how one character on a totem pole, the lines blend into the next.
Yeah,
and I was like, I can't follow. I mean, I can see what he's doing.
Yeah.
But there's no possible
every line
way to
is
figure that
balanced
out.
off of the next line. Everything is in balance for a form line, and like to do it properly just takes a lot of effort and years of studying it and just practicing drawing. But that carries over to your carving too. The better you are at seeing the composition, the better carver you're going to be. You know, they go hand in hand together.
Do you have someone that sat down with you and taught you? Or did you
I taught
study?
myself everything,
Yeah.
like the whole thing. And like a lot of people can't believe that because it's such a daunting thing. But like,
It's huge.
I made the, decision that this is what I'm going to pursue. This is what I'm going to go after. And like, I spent the years studying and doing it and reading and studying old work. If a museum was within, 15 hours of me, I went there,
Wow.
and studied it. And if they had Tlingit pieces there, I went and looked at it. And like studied the old pieces and studied their composition, studied their lines, and then just drawing all the time, drawing form line, and that's why it took so long, like 14 years later, like I'm now in a groove, where things are clicking, and I'm excited for where, this path I'm on and seeing where it's going to go.
Do you see yourself becoming a teacher, like full time as you're getting older?
I mean, I enjoy doing it, but it's like, man, I'm still producing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm still like hungry. I still want to. There's so much more I want to do, and my time's like it's more. I do this, I realize my time is valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, man, I don't waste a second. I dedicate everything I have to this, on top of supporting the family and like raising, I have a 10-year-old son, and like, he comes first with this. But if I get free time, like, I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to use it. And so like, yeah, teaching's great and I'm going to do it. But like, man, there's still so much more I want to do.
Yeah. Clarence at 64 years old or something, he's slowing down because physically it's hard, but when he gets in the groove, like, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts to see. But like you say, the time is valuable. It's really difficult in the economic system, watching him in the economic system, because really, you can't really hire yourself out for something that's going to be infused with the real passion, right? Because you can't manufacture that passion.
I think you focus on being the best that you can be, and that stuff just attracts to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there, I mean, like you said, though, there's a business side to this, and you have to be professional, and you have to deliver on deadlines. Like I just did designs for Yeti, where they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need 5 designs by this date," and I said, "No problem." You
can do it.
Well, yeah, it was a week and a half. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and so
wow.
Like 5, designs in that amount of time is like efficient. You need to do it.
Yeah,
you need to draw it, paint it, shoot it, get a digital file going. But yeah, I met the deadline, and
wow,
that's how it works. You know, and so your time is valuable.
Yes, insanely valuable. Yeah, as my friend gets older, I realize there's only so many pieces that he's going to do in his life.
Yeah.
Because there's only that much time.
There's only so much time you could dedicate to it. Like, you sculpt a bowl. I mean, that bowl is going to take, a month, depending on the size, 2 months of the year to do that one piece. But for me, I like doing like multiple pieces at once. I'll have, like most artists, you have like 3-4 things going at the same time. That way you're more productive that way. And things are all inching closer to get done, where it's mask is going to be finished, and next week the bowl is going to be done, and painting will be done too. But just being efficient with what you're doing, and I think trusting your ability too is important. You trust what you could do. You trust the lines that you draw. You trust the cut that you can make with your knife, or the stroke with the paintbrush. You trust that line, and you're more efficient.
That's amazing. It's amazing to hear this knowledge from you. I can't thank you enough for going out of your way to come and talk with me, dude.
Yeah.
I think about my email to you being in the same inbox as Google or whatever. And think, it's amazing that I met you at a time where you would have the time to answer an email from me. You know?
Yeah.
That's rad.
No, I like what you're doing.
Thanks,
I listened to that podcast you did with Jamie, and I was like, that's awesome. You know, I really enjoyed it.
Man. He's the best. Yeah, I talked to him yesterday or the day before for an hour. Just, about being a dad. He's at that new dad stage, and there's something hypnotic about his voice, actually.
Yeah.
And the time that he takes to speak is, I'm a little more.
Yeah, I've given him a cricket knife. I gave him a hawk mask. He was at Volcom painting last, I think, October, and I went out and saw him. I was out there with my family, and stopped by and talked. I brought a hawk mask out for him. Like in our culture, the hawk is a helper of the raven, and it kind of goes hand in hand, with him. Like, he has a new son, that's going to help him.
Big time. Yeah. And it's just so wonderful to hear him happy,
Yeah.
And he sent me some pictures of his son, and then some, videos of other babies, like a bear with cubs and a doe with some fawns. And it's like, oh, this guy's
awesome.
He's in this zone right now, dad zone, and he fits it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I told him, like, we were talking in October before Deanie was due, I said, you know what, like, there's nothing better than being a father. Like, nothing better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he basically mirrored those words.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, this is it. This is, I never thought I could get so much joy from just seeing one single smile. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's dope, man. He's a great guy and a great artist too.
Oh,
right?
So good.
Yeah. People love his art. It's nuts. I got to have him on the show again now that we're doing video.
Yeah. I think people would enjoy that. Just hearing a story.
Yeah. Man, your story is great, dude. And it's just begun. Like, you're just meeting your pace.
Yeah. I'm excited for, like, what the future holds, and I don't look too far ahead. I focus on what's in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing, dude. Thanks for everything. Thanks for listening to me, Gab, and thanks for sharing some of your knowledge. It's super sick.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. This has been great.
It's really good to meet you, man.
All right.
FNRad shoutouts this week to James Johnson. You can check out some of his artwork and get to know more about him at jamesjohnsonnativeart.com. Thanks for doing the show, James. This was one of my favorite interviews by far. Be sure to come back next week for more FNRad snowboarding presented by Vans and brought to you by SIA Productions.